this grant has been approved, am I correct?
Correct. We've
Yeah,
got an
okay.
approval letter,
No, we've approved it, I mean,
and the
we have
city council
approved
has
it.
approved it,
Yeah.
yes.
And how much is the match on this grant? Do we know?
I don't have it in
Does
front of
anyone know
me.
what the match is on this grant?
So here's an issue I see. So it's titled authorizations, authorizing signatures, okay? But then the body, that's something different. So, I don't know.
The resolution was sent
No.
to me. I did not write this resolution.
So we don't even know where this originated from.
So if the top
It
part is dealing
originated
with
from, I
signatures,
think the gentleman is the grant
Yeah,
coordinator, is
probably.
how that came to
Yes.
me.
Is that Mr. Katie?
His first name is Nick,
Nick Houston.
yes,
This
Nick
just looks
Houston.
like-
Which company is he with? Nick Houston?
I have that.
I don't have that information in front of me. I don't have my computer in front of me.
Yeah, I was pointing until we get all that.
But if that's from Nick Houston, then it's just a matter of
Setting up the meeting.
setting
So
up
just for
Nick
clarification,
Houston's with public management.
public management. I think they're the ones who were really handling that grant, serving as the grant coordinators.
Yes.
And if he sent you that resolution, the language, then that more or less is what's needed to just set up the bank account.
What we're saying is, if we're gonna approve a resolution, we would want the city attorney to have looked at the resolution.
Well, yeah, I understand, right? Y'all need
the
to-
city attorney is saying that the title and the body of the resolution are saying two different things. Correct?
It's looking, the top part is dealing with authorizing to open up depository and signatory accounts. But then the body talks about executing contracts, and then this other stuff dealing with voucher, which is not signatures. So, this is the first one. I don't know if there's a timeline
We
on,
need to find out before this doesn't sign.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, Councilman
Oh, I'm sure
I'm
there
going
is.
to item 4 be
They
tabled
don't approve it, we don't get
until
it.
we provide some clarification and the resolution is consistent with its title.
It's been moved and properly second. I'm ready for question.
Question?
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Yeah, my unreadiness is just making sure that we state what is it we needed, because I guess we have.
Everything. Because there's nothing here that states what this is.
Call for a vote.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Those opposed? Ayes have it. All right, number 5, presentation for discussion from Dr. Peter Brown. Are you done?
you know,
I'm not doing a presentation.
What you doing?
on grant
That's
funds.
what it says.
Thank you for the fancy word, Ms. Dickey. Oh, look, I'm here this afternoon. I want to say hello to the beautiful citizens of Prairie View, the city council. I want to say hello to the mayor. You know how we say the pastor in his absence? The mayor in his absence and everybody. The reason I'm here today is because I wanted to discuss with you all an issue that came up last meeting that we had, and we talked about the Smart City Grant. As a former grant manager, and I wrote millions of dollars worth of grant proposals, got grant funding, managed millions of dollars of federal, state, local, private grants. When the discussion about the Smart City Grant was going on with City Council, I was about to roll over in my seat because there were some questions raised and comments made that I felt were not addressed properly. And so I worried the mayor to death because I wanted to make it clear. I've worked with the National Science Foundation, NIH, and like I said, federal, state grants, and I needed to clarify some things. First of all, there was some ambiguity about whether or not the city actually got the $100,000. And as I looked around the audience, there was some snickering going on and some snide comments and just some puzzled faces. So I wanted to make it clear tonight, because I've worked on this kind of grant before with another city from a different capacity. When an agency, which the National Science Foundation, for example, as you all know, is a federal agency, and the Senate, Congress approved money for them to fund different projects. As a former university professor and a researcher, we got evaluated each year in terms of the grants we received, research we've done, teaching, and community. Those are the areas that we got funded in. So what a lot of grant agencies do, they will have universities apply for grants, but the money is not for the university. In this case, the money is actually for the city. But when the university applies for the grant, in this case it's $100,000, the university gets an administrative fee. When I was in the university, it was 10 or 15%. But the bulk of the money goes to what the city has said that they needed. Like a lot of times the National Science Foundation, and I'm just using that as an example, is prohibited from funding city projects directly, but they can make allowances so university people can receive grants to do certain things in the city. So the city itself benefits 75 to 80% of the grant, minus the overhead. Even in most cases, if it's something that city workers have to do, as far as that grant is designed, the grant pays the city workers. The city doesn't pay the city workers if they wrote it into the grant. So I wanted to make it clear that when a university gets a grant like that, and they have a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the city doesn't necessarily get the money directly deposited in the city's account. The money goes to the university, but what the university does with the bulk of the money is spends it on what the city has told them that they need to have done, the money spent for the project. So even though $100,000, and depending on the outcome of this preliminary pilot study, the university can apply for $1.5 million, I think. That money won't come directly to the city's budget. I'm saying it for the 5th time. I know, right? Just a teacher by nature, I can't get that out of me. It'll come into the university's budget. But the university can't use the money for anything other than the overhead that they charge to manage the grant. Those people that work for the university may have written themselves a salary in there. But even with that, the salary that they've written in there cannot add on to the salary that they're making as a university employee. It has to be, am I right? It has to be like if they take a salary from the grant, their regular salary goes back into the university budget and they get paid only from the grant. So that wouldn't make sense to them. I'm just saying the bulk of the money that came for the Smart City grant is going to be used solely to improve what we have told them that the city wants and needs as far as technology is concerned. I just needed to make that clear because, like I said, I have a lot of expertise in this area, and it just kind of needed to be clarified.
Dr. Brown.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're so
for
welcome.
clarifying. Based upon your experience, can you talk to us about how the grantor, the city, so have you seen this grant? Did you see the grant proposal? That's the first question.
I saw that they did a presentation of the proposal before they received the money. We all came in here and they projected it on the wall. They went step by step what they were asking for, why they wanted it, and how much it was.
So, in the grant proposal, that the university has went after this grant from an outside entity to be able to do planning and development. This is not the first time the city has gotten a grant. This is not the first time we've done any planning or development for the city. I
When you
think that
say we have done planning and development for the city, what do
We
you,
mean-
who is we? Who are you we?
we is the city, this is not the first time we've had a grant. And so I
Okay, you
want-
said that first, and then you say, and this is not the first time that we have done development for the city.
a grant planning or had some sort of entity that came in and did services, did a study for us. And so part of what we want to just make sure is we're saying the same things. All this is a grant that will produce a study, just like with TEES, we got a study. What we're saying is, I think the issue last meeting was in reference to the terminology that went out in a robocall. The terminology that went out in a robocall and has been going on on documentation has been different than what you just explained to us. And so, one, I want to say thank you for the clarification in that. But when you say, so I think the city is going to benefit from the Smart Cities grant. But when you say that it's for the benefit of, what employees or what action have we been able to charge time back to in this particular grant? And so when you look at the.
When you say charge time
So
back to, what do you mean?
you talk about city's employees doing work on this particular grant. You said if you have a grant and you have city employees are doing things for the Smart City grant, that's time, effort, that's money that we should be able to charge back to the grant, correct?
No, I didn't say that. I said if part of what the grant is proposing to do, if they decide to use city employees and they've written that into the budget, then they can use that money to
Correct.
pay the employees because it's on that grant.
We're saying the same thing with thank you.
No, I'm not saying what you're saying. You said something different from what
No.
I'm saying.
I'm not, but thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, and let me ask you other question. The robocall, I don't know which robocall you're talking about, but the robocall I received before the last meeting that we had, it was very clear that the city had gotten this funding. Now, let me make it clear too. If it wasn't for the city, there would be no funding for the Smart City grant.
That's correct.
But that's misleading.
But again, the conversation on the robocall was misleading. The
No,
city-
it could have been misleading if you took it that way, but like I say, as a person who has been working with grants
Yes,
for
ma'am.
years, millions and millions of dollars in grants,
Yes, ma'am. I
it wasn't
understand.
misleading,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
understood perfectly what it
But there's
meant.
several citizens who asked me specifically, who don't have a PhD like you, and so we appreciate.
You don't have to have a
We
PhD to understand.
we appreciate you explaining that to us, but citizens asked me a specific question, and as a council person, I didn't have the information, so I asked the question to our accountant to get clarity, and so you also clarified some things for us, so thank you.
Well, first of all, you don't have to have a PhD to understand. Ms. Dickey worked in that office on the university, she doesn't have a PhD and she fully understands. My point is that there was some ambiguity, misunderstanding. Because of my expertise, I could have done it with a bachelor's degree or a high school diploma. But because of my expertise in working with grants, I have a little bit deeper understanding of what that means. And so that's why I wanted to come and share that, because I didn't think that the questions that were asked last time were fully addressed. And I just want to make it clear that without the Smart City grant, none of the things that were proposed and that would be done in the city. Without the university applying for the grant, there would be no grant.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. consider and take action on zoning map amendment ordinance. Applicant Frank Vasquez Jr., address and legal description 44222 US Highway 290, Prairie View, Texas 77446.
Is he here?
Mr.
Yes,
Vasquez.
Mr. Vasquez.
And then, can you just-
S 714-100 Perry Hills, 1 block, 2 lots, W 51.448 of 17, acreage 2364, existing zoning, MU for mixed use, proposed zoning, GC, general commercial for auto dealer used.
Correct. Good afternoon, City Council, and as well as the President of Prairie View. I think Attorney Tim had turned around and gave me the full descriptions as far as exactly what it's going to take for me to go ahead and move forward with this proposal. And I agree with it as far as the buffer and the pavement that I'm going to make sure that the vehicles will be sitting on also. So I want to continue moving forward.
I have two questions.
Sure.
So thank you for getting us information. We've had this on the agenda 3 times already. Whatever you're gonna propose, did you have that, something for us to, did you submit something to the attorney, or do you have something that you submit to planning and zoning?
I had I
Is
didn't,
this?
right, as far as that right there, because the 16 feet that I have as far as my gate is gonna be one side of the buffer. And the other side, between my gate and the 15 feet of the 15 feet coming in, okay? The pavement, as far as the asphalt, is gonna be in the middle. And I'm gonna be, I think it's 3 feet, if I'm not mistaken, off the 290.
The right way.
I have two questions. This zoning mixed use, is that where do we get that from?
That's a zoning district in your zoning code. So-
No. I'm understanding mixed use, but his particular property
Mhm.
has been zoned mixed use. His neighbor's properties that are residential are zoned mixed use, or no? How did we get to this point?
I don't know what the adjacent property, I know there's 2 houses that's on each side of him, so I don't know what the zoning is on those. I would have to look at the map, but, his is mixed use, and he's asking to go from mixed use to general commercial.
My second question is, if we approve this with with what he has put on, if we approve this to move from mixed use to GC for auto dealer use, he gets a blanket approval, is that correct? What my understanding is, if we move it from mixed use to GC, it's a blanket approval.
It's anything that's allowed in the GC category.
Right, but
It's not.
is our approval on specifically an auto dealership, or is our GC approval, once he gets a GC, he can next month say, hey, I don't really want to do an auto dealership no more. I can do anything that's GC, and so I want to be very clear on what we can or can't do at this moment.
So, because anything within the GC is a use by right, so if you rezone it, it would rezone to anything that can be used within that district. Now, we've spoken, and it's my understanding that you want to use this only for using used cars, is that correct?
Well, I didn't want to be locked down just for that. One of the things that I did indicate was that I wasn't going to put a junkyard or a mechanic shop, nothing like that. As far as the mixed use, I could open up, they said, beverages, as far as a beer joint. I could do a food restaurant. It falls under a different category. But at the same token, with the GC, the only thing is the difference as far as the, business-wise, as far as making a mechanic shop, and it has maybe a junkyard or something else. I would not have a mechanic shop, and definitely not a junkyard there. If there's anything, I just don't want to be locked down just to mechanic shop, because if for some reason, if it just doesn't pan down,
You mean the used car dealership?
used cars, I'm sorry, used cars, right. and it doesn't pan out, then if I want to go ahead and move into what it would have been under the mixed use, a restaurant, then I want to go ahead and do that so I can be able to support the community that way.
Now, we can write in the ordinance that he will only, since he's agreeing, we can put in the ordinance that it would be used for an auto dealer or anything else allowed by the GC except exclude the junkyard and the
Mechanic shop.
And with that ordinance form, if he's agreed to that, that might,
But the ordinance has to apply to all of the citizens, not just him in particular.
well, it's kind of a good faith effort that he's not going to do that. I mean, but.
Because I think I think we want development on this particular property. If y'all don't know, this is off of 0290. The issue is that what we've been having, if we approve this to go from mixed use to general commercial, if after a year, say Mr. Vargas sells the property, Vasquez, excuse me,
Yes, sir.
I said Vargas, Vasquez sells the property, that they could use this for a mechanic shop, tire shop, and gets us back down this issue. Now, he's saying, he's agreeing that he won't do that, and so are you saying that you will agree that with the approval that we would just, that we will say it's for the general commercial auto dealer, but not for the mechanic shop? Is that what you would agree to?
Absolutely. I mean, there's certain businesses that general commercial qualifies for as well as the mixed use. The only thing I would say as far as other than the mechanic shop, okay, and the junkyard, you can guarantee those two things would not be happening on that piece of property. And I will sign off on that.
Well, what are your other options if it doesn't pan out?
What's my, what now?
What's your other option if it doesn't pan out?
Well, of course, the other options is going to be making sure that we can be able to find an understanding as far as this business 290, okay? And if that is the case, whatever else we need to do to be able to move forward to make sure that justice is being done right here. When we say options, when we say business 290, there are a lot of businesses here, and there's one right down the street from me also that apparently I don't see that the gentleman's inside the city council at the moment here. It's not having these issues, but apparently I am. When I purchased the property, apparently mixed use means that I could open up a restaurant. So if I would have done a restaurant, would it met the qualifications? Or I haven't been, after a year and a half, I'd be having the same issues that I'm having now. I don't know if it's a reference of me trying to make an investment in this community. And I was on the Chamber of Commerce with Prairie View. I'm not here to do anything other than anybody else is already doing. Somebody tried to use that tire shop as an example. And it's a shame that, the gentleman that actually owned that piece of property is Hispanic also. But when they started talking about the fact because of his misuse of the property and turned it into a car lot, apparently started with a car lot and then went into a tire shop and then a mechanic shop, I said, well, y'all sitting up here in the city council should know who OSHA is. OSHA could have turned around and shut that down. And because using that as an example, why y'all weren't allowing me a year and a half ago to qualify for this particular property to become general commercial, I've been dealing with this for a while now. And, the ordinance, as far as whatever y'all's ordinance is, is it state law, federal law? There's a lot of questions that I'm still asking. All I'm trying to do here is just, if y'all choose not to, then I'll go ahead and move to the next step, whatever the case might be.
What's the correct term, Mr. Attorney, in reference to if we were to move this to general commercial, can we put the stipulation on moving this general commercial for an auto dealer, and then any other changes would need to come back to council? Is that something we can put in there? So again, we don't want to handicap anybody coming to the city of Prairie View to invest and to grow our city. we want to make sure, because of the example you talked about, that was supposed to be an auto dealership that then went to a mechanic shop, that then went to a tire shop, that did, like, that has, and we have not been able to get that, whatever it may be, since it came in. And so we're saying that since we have that experience, we want to support every entrepreneur who are coming to the city to do, to open a business, but we want to make sure that we have that experience, and we don't want that to happen again. We know if we approve you to just move from mixed use to general commercial, you have the ability to do whatever it is that operates under general commercial.
Well,
You have that right.
Right.
And I'm just simply saying, as council, we want to make sure if you say you're going to, this is what you're going to do, an auto dealership. Only thing we want to say is if we approve this, is that if you change the right of use, that you just come before, or whoever comes before council. And I don't necessarily know if we have that right, and that's why I'm asking the attorney.
The issue is that because your general commercial has what's called, there's a whole list of things that go in a GC, there's a whole matrix, very long. And everything that go in there, there's an X, and X equals a use by right. And so if this so anything so let's talk about the mixed use, what he can do right now. So right now, he can do, have an accounting business there, an advertising agency. He doesn't have to ask for permission to do that. And whatever that list is, that's like a use by right. He couldn't put in, say, an air compressor and sales repair shop in a mixed use, because there's no use by that. If he goes to GC, okay, then he gets to do everything that's within the GC category as a use by right. And so, he submitted the application with being a auto dealer use, that's one of the uses that's allowed. But this is different than a conditional use permit where you would have to make that call every time to see if that's an appropriate use. I will say this, it might be something y'all want to look at in the future in your zoning, so that you don't have so many categories, that some things are more appropriate as a conditional use, so that it's not so many use by rights, but they'd have to come to you and ask if he wants to change something to, say, auto repair, he'd have to come back to you. But as it stands, if you go from NU to GC, he can do anything in the GC. Now, on the ordinance, because what his application said, his application was for an auto body use. That's what the planning commission heard, that's what y'all's application was.
That was
recommendation.
a used auto.
Was a used auto deal. And so I wrote an ordinance based on saying that's what the use will be. That's been relatively consistent until tonight. He said, if this doesn't pan out, there might be some other things that he might want to use the property for.
But do we have any, so I'm in agreement. So we're saying that we've heard this, we agree, but if a year from now, he decides he doesn't want to do an auto dealership, which he has the right, did we just give him the ability to now it's a GC property, can he sell that property as a GC to someone else and they put whatever it is that falls under GC? That's our dilemma. I don't think it has anything to do with.
Councilman, can I
I
answer
think you
this if
said
you don't
something
mind?
that you were not ever selling that property.
Right, if you don't mind, Roland, Councilmember Roland, if you don't mind, I'd like to answer something on that subject. When the mayor was here, he turned around and said, that y'all gonna be the, whoever, if I decide, but like I explained to you from that last standpoint, was that 50 years down the road, hopefully my grandkids gonna have that property, okay? Because I think things are gonna change. And Mary Allen turned around and indicated that y'all gonna be the overseers. That whoever decides to come in and they wanna, put a mechanic shop, they're gonna have to come and get your approval anyway. So y'all gonna make sure that y'all have that ability to be able to do that check and balance. And also, here's the other side to it. And I understand your point, because I think, council member on the end that, what would I do? What would be the next step, okay? There's a lot of things that I'm seeing here that you're speaking about. You're worrying about a mechanic shop, you're worrying about a junkyard, and there's places around here, my friend, we don't have to go too far. And if you look at it, that's what it looks like. So if that's the main concern, I wouldn't have taken the time to dress this up just a little different, okay? I don't look at it with a low IQ. I look at it with a business mentality, and I want to be able to make sure that I can be able to represent Prairie View in the best way that I can. But if you're that concerned about the fact of, the way Prairie View is going to extend from this point on, in a positive note or a negative note, I think we start cleaning up some of the stuff that we got around here anyway. OSHA it's not that far off. And if you don't have the number, I do have the number.
Councilwoman, Member Pro Tem, I move that we consider approving, legal address description 44222 U.S. Business 290, Prairie View, Texas, S714100, Prairie View Hills, Block 2, Lot W, 51.48 of 17, acreage 2.364, existing zoning, mixed use, to propose zoning, general commercial for auto dealer.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, must say aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it.
And I do have a proposed ordinance that I do have the ordinance that I'll get to Ms. Dickey, so to read that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've had several conversations about the zoning. Is that something that you're handling or Olson's handling with our zoning? Because this is not the first time we've.
I'm handling it as best I can, but we need some things we will talk about. Well, put it on the agenda for that.
But what is it? What is the item? Zoning map or? Because part of it.
When we get to that, when we get to that item, I'll tell you what. Okay.
All right, item number 7. Consider and take action on the vehicle use policy of the 2018 Ford Explorer. Attorney Curley.
So I was asked to do some more research by both Councilmember Williams and Councilmember Bowen on vehicle use. I would like to report back on some of the things that I have discovered. So I looked at several different cities to see, kind of what they were doing. One of the issues that was brought up in the initial policy was dealing with having proof of valid insurance, personal insurance to drive the vehicle. The city of Pearland has in their vehicle use policy a similar provision that deals with having to show proof of personal auto liability insurance coverage